Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Lovejoy. I'll be your host today as we sit down with Brandon Fancher of the Clarion team to discuss the latest developments on EdenOS. And yeah, Brandon, how's it going today?
Yeah, going good. Yeah. As always, thank you for you and Chris, hosting these. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to sharing where we're at with elections on EdenOS and our progress.
Awesome. Yeah, I was out for a few weeks and Chris was gracious to jump in and be Johnny on the spot here. And that was super helpful while I was trying to get my affairs in order. So I'm back. We'll probably just keep passing host around and that seems to be pretty fun to do. So
Yeah. Mix it up.
yeah, mix it up a little bit. So yeah, without further ado, you want to jump right in? We got quite a crowd already. This is pretty nice to see. Oh, maybe we're down to, I can't keep track. 5 people. All right.
No worries. All right. Well, I've got my screen share going there whenever you want to pull it in. As always, our normal slide deck for these EdenOS development updates with a few modifications here and there. Yeah, let's dive in. So, every 2 weeks we do this call. Number one, to show off progress from the last 2 weeks. It is our sprint demos, if you will. We discuss what we're going to be working on next, any changes or updates to the roadmap, and of course answer any questions that you guys might have. So the disclaimer is, a lot of this is projection. So we talk about concretely what we've done, what we've accomplished, but we do have 11 and 5. We do have, some. When we're talking about the future, we're talking about timelines. Things can change. Things are subject to change. So just keep that in mind as we go. And then we like to start out by pointing you guys to some resources. So if you haven't already been to EdenOS.org, please go check it out. That will tell you all about what Eden is, and specifically EdenOnEOS. There's a link there to Dan Larimer's book, More Equal Animals, which really is the genesis, if you will, of all of this hierarchical, fractal governance model that we're implementing through Eden. Really good read. Highly recommend that you get that. I know I'm still giving copies out to friends and family. And then our public Eden Wiki. So take a look there, and then Eden GitHub. And I've been saying the past couple of weeks, it's not fully up to date, but I have actually gotten the Eden GitHub project that we have in there mostly up to date. So if you go in there, you'll be able to see what's in the backlog, what's on tap on our to-do column, and then what we're actually working on and done. So we really emphasize transparency with everything that we do. And of course, if you guys have any questions, you can ask now or join our Eden Dev channel. I know there are a couple of other Telegram, that's on Telegram, by the way. There are a couple of other Telegram communities around Eden as well that you can join and ask questions there. Anything you want to add to the resources there, Lovejoy?
Oh boy. Well, we should probably, yeah, there's a lot of different conversations going on.
Is Slack picking up?
Slack's picking up. We've got, I don't know how many members in there now, 40 some. I would say we need to make sure the community calendar is in front of everybody because we're actually updating it now. And that's on Notion. I'll drop a link in the description today.
Nice.
But yeah, the community calendar is a good way to keep up to date with everything that's going on. There's been office hours every weekday morning at 1300 UTC, which I believe is 8 a.m. Eastern. Don't quote me on that. It's on the calendar. And so that's been really nice.
9 a.m. Eastern is 1300.
Oh, then
I've been having to convert between UTC and Eastern a lot lately.
that's how you do a little ticking little numbers off there. Anyway, check the calendar. There's office hours are actually happening right now. So, 9 a.m. EST. Christopher just chimed in, not to be fooled. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other resources we could point to. I'll probably just drop it in the description. And you got the main ones right there. The EdenOS.org is a great place to begin your journey.
Absolutely. All right, well, shall we get into the roadmap?
Yeah, let's do it.
You guys, if you've been on these calls before, you've seen this graphic. We have finished up V01 community formation and the member induction enhancements that we were working on. And now we are here on the green dot, finishing up V02, which is all about elections and funding. And we're doing all of that organized and executed on chain via the EdenOS interface. V03 is something that will be starting, we're looking at next month, enhanced elections, enhanced accounting, getting people better visibility into past election results, accounting, etc. And then, we move on to community administration and other things. The farther we get out, the fuzzier it is. But the important part is that green line that you see has moved a few ticks to the right, and that's what we want to see. Specifically, okay, zooming in on that V02 in the middle there, we have, we've been saying September 2021. Actually, we've been saying fall 2021. But Chris caught last time we did this that fall isn't fall in the Southern Hemisphere. And so we got rid of the seasons. So we're sticking with September 2021 is whenever we're going to have our code complete on V02 elections and funding. So what does this include? It includes elections via our EdenOS interface, scheduled every 6 months. You can opt in or opt out of elections up to a certain point. You'll be randomly grouped with other people who have opted into the election, other Eden members who have opted into the election when the election begins. And that's based, you'll see this, but that's based on entropy that we're collecting from Bitcoin headers, okay, within a certain time frame. So that's kind of neat how that works. Zoom links. This was something that originally we had as a kind of a fast follow, but we are closing in on that implementation now. So the UI will give you a way to create, encrypt, and share with your group in the election, your groups in the election, a link for that election group, right? A video link. Voting, on-chain voting, right? Video uploads of your election results, and a simple funding mechanism. We make that more robust, we'll say, in V03, but a very simple funding or disbursement of funds from elections, and the ability to see your representatives. That's so nothing's really changed there since last call. And then on this page, I break that down a little bit farther to show our progress, and the things that are highlighted have been updated since I last shared this slide deck. So election actions in the smart contract are complete. It's no different. Our UI designs are stable. Our shared UI components in the front end, they're actually all built now. And that election UI is hooked up to the contract APIs. So our UI is talking to the contract, the RPC endpoints, and we'll be attempting to live demo that today here. We'll tell you why I say attempting later. It is solid. It's just that to move, we'll keep that for later, right? Sure. Successfully tested Light Zoom API integration for meeting links. So that hasn't changed. And we are actively working on the encrypted meeting link sharing. So we are now encrypting meeting links and putting those encrypted meeting links on chain. And now we're working on the decryption piece of that for the election participants. And starting simple, we're beginning simple UI for viewing and withdrawing election budgets. So we've been hyper-focused on the election. Now we're starting to work on the election budgets. That piece will move pretty quickly. All the election actions and smart contract stuff is in place for that already. It's just a matter of us creating a little bit of UI to show you your available balance in an election or a delegate account, and letting you pull that out to your EOS account. This one's a new entry. So it's kind of a fast follow, but we've been saying in V02, you're going to be able to see your own slice of delegation within the whole hierarchy, but seeing the whole hierarchy is going to be a little bit more difficult. That may be a V03 thing, but we know that's really important. It's important for everybody to know what's going on at a global level. And similarly, when you're in an election, we've been saying you'll be able to see your participation in the election, but getting visibility into what's going on in all of the other groups in the tree, the election hierarchy tree. Maybe a V03 thing. We do have a community Zoom room that people will be able to join to get updates during an election as the election's ongoing. But we actually we're going to try to use the work that Todd Fleming has been doing that derives state by pushing transactions, Eden transactions, straight to browsers, people's browsers, right? We're going to try to use that to actually build out those global views sooner rather than later. So there's a chance we may have those at least partially complete enough where you get the information from this V02 milestone as well.
Does that rely on people using particular browsers or?
No.
Just
a modern browser, right? So that could be a Chromium or Chrome-based browser. Brave, Safari should work just fine too. Firefox, I don't think there's really any.
Nice.
I wouldn't try using Internet Explorer.
I was gonna say,
or IE6 or something like that.
Yeah.
Edge, I would probably would, but see, I wouldn't try using those for anything serious anyway. So, sorry, Microsoft people.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Yeah. But no, that should work just fine. We'll see. Like I said, that's kind of a stretch goal. But it's neat because that's new scope that we're bringing in, and it gives us a really great way to test out in a production environment the work that Todd Fleming has been doing, where we're deriving state from events client side instead of relying on a server to feed us that state.
Yeah, that's a really interesting.
Yeah,
maybe,
go on.
No, maybe you could just say more about that whole thing, because I don't think anyone's really elaborated on that outside of this team, and probably not that much.
Yeah. Well, one thing to add here first is that it gives us a piece of the EdenOS system, of the election system, that is independent enough to where the risk is really low. It's a value add, and just a nice way to test it. But no, the idea is that, like in the past, okay, so Web3 in the beginning, you're trying to query chain RPC endpoints for information directly from the browser. And that works up to a certain point, but there are a lot of questions that users ask that you can't really get answers to by just looking at the blockchain. You really need to look at the sequence of events on the blockchain, right? The sequence of certain actions over time, and build up state to be able to, like state that you can query that can answer the questions about, that users might be asking via your UI. And I'm trying to think of a good example of that. There are lots of examples out there, but there have been solutions over time like Demux and Demux2 and Rhodeos that try to build that state up in a server and then expose that state, like in a Postgres database, expose that state via GraphQL, where you can just query it. But then that really creates a big dependency on that state. And is that state really, like, you got to do extra work to verify it. And so now we're experimenting with, instead of sending the blocks to a server, which derives the state, and then you just use a Postgres database instead of the blockchain, you're able to subscribe to a subset of events, of actions, of transactions that are going on in EOS.io. And when you subscribe to that, we start feeding those to you. And we're doing this under the hood with like EOS Nation's Firehose, and like they have an open. Look, Todd Fleming, a lot of this is beyond me. Todd Fleming talks a lot better about this. And previous episodes, I think, I don't know if it was the last episode or 3 episodes back, but we had Todd Fleming on talking about all of this. It was really good. So I'd encourage you guys to go back and watch that. Point is, we're sending the blocks directly to your browser. And your browser then is deriving the state in WASM in the browser. And all the state is just there. And the JavaScript client that's running, like EdenOS, just talks to the WASM, just grabs what it needs in its local database, its local state. And in that way, if we want to answer new questions that we haven't been able to answer before, that we want to show to the user, we can update that WASM. It'll derive a new state. And yeah, so
very cool.
It's novel. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and I think it could be. I think it could be revolutionary. But it's so early that you can see how I talk about it. I barely understand it. So.
Well, I'm one level, below you, or a couple levels below you. Then I'm just trying to wrap my head around. But it sounds very, it sounds really significant to be able to derive state like on a machine by machine basis, and then be able to like leverage those.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you in the blockchain space, a lot of people say, oh, they say things like, not your keys, not your Bitcoin, which I subscribe to, right? Your Bitcoin can be taken if it's not your keys, not your EOS. But if a lot of the purists will say, if you're not running a node, a Bitcoin node, then you're trusting other people to know the state of the blockchain, and how do you know what's really happened, right? And so in this way, it's kind of like your browser is running your own Eden node. You're deriving the state based on the blocks that are being sent over to you. And I think that's pretty cool, right? I think that the closest to the user we can bring the source of truth, the better. Yeah,
it seems like it would have implications for supply chain stuff and all sorts of ways of trying to collect data from multiple nodes in a net. But anyway. Yeah,
I'm excited about it. But.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's new, right? Showing those global views, and I'm hoping that we can do that in this release. Also, inline web RTC chat for election participants. That has always been a stretch goal. We've officially had it in V03, but we've been trying to pull it into V02. And at this point, I think it's going to be a V03 thing. It's probably a fast follow. It's going to be really nice whenever you're in EdenOS with your 4, 5, 6 co-participants in a round, and just be able to say, hey, are we meeting, or where'd he go, or just talk on chat without having to be in the Zoom call, and that's going to be really useful. But we're punting on that a little bit right now.
And they'll have chat capability while speaking as well, I presume. So they want to share links or whatnot.
Yeah, and that can already be done in Zoom when you're in the Zoom call. But this would be an encrypted, channel outside of Zoom. That if in case you have trouble getting into Zoom, right? Maybe you couldn't decrypt the Zoom link for some reason. you can ping the other guys or the other gals in there and say, hey, can you guys send me the link and do that? Nice add-on. So Nova Crypto, WebRTC chat, nice add-on anticipated for Clarion platform. Yeah. Yeah, that was, I think, Dan's idea. He said, can we just have some WebRTC chat? Wow. Yes, of course.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Now, I showed this slide like 2 weeks ago, but I want to show it again because it is important. There have been some simplifications that we've made to the election design. One of those is we were talking about a 2 EOS election fee every election. We've gotten rid of that. No election fees. Everything's covered by your annual membership dues. It just simplifies things greatly. Adding fees, then you start thinking, well, is there an incentive to not opt in or opt out, or how does that impact incentives? And, you know, we have a really good onboarding process, and people, I'd like to believe people are in the Eden community because it's important to them. Coming to consensus is the reward. And so, keeping it simple there. I spoke more about that 2 calls ago. Go listen to that if you want more elaboration. RSVP required, even if you don't plan to participate. That was kind of a weird one. And it was creating situations in which, like, what if somebody doesn't RSVP? Should there be a penalty? Should there be, like, again, talking about all the weird incentives around, not RSVPing. And, we decided it's just going to be simpler, more straightforward. If you opt in by declaring your intent to participate, and if something changes, you can opt out, or you can opt out first. And if something changes, you can opt in. The important thing is that if you opt in, you vote in the first round, because voting is basically it's the roll call. It's you saying, hey, I'm here, I was here. You can see it on the chain, I voted. In the future, the community may decide that people who opt in but don't vote, that's kind of a ding on your reputation. And we may even start to surface that, opted into this election, voted in this election. People go to your profile and see that. That's how engaged are you as an Eden member? So, RSVP not required. Opt in, no, please. The other thing that we had here is we were saying that over two thirds of the people who were in your group in a round had to vote for the winner to, for there to be consensus. That created situations where if 1 or 2 people RSVP but didn't show up, didn't vote, it could prevent the whole group from coming to consensus. So subtle change here, but right now we're saying a no show or a no vote counts as a vote for the remaining consensus. Another way to put that more plainly is consensus is achieved in your group by over 2/3 of the votes cast. So if there are 5 people in a group, 1 person doesn't show up, but 4 people vote, then it's over 2/3 of the 4, right? So that would be 3 people could come to consensus. Whereas if all 5 people show up and vote, then the consensus is 4 people. So what this does is it just prevents, I already said it. It just makes sure that 4 people who show up don't get short-strawed in the thing by the no-show.
Mm-hmm. Simply by virtue of someone else not showing up.
Exactly.
Essentially. Chris has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an option to vote for no one in your group?
No, there's not. You can always vote for yourself. The other thing is you actually have to vote for yourself to win. We have that check in there too. We don't want people who don't want to win winning. But you could vote for yourself or vote for someone else. There is an option to not vote. Okay. But again, like I said, that's kind of your roll call. You want to vote to show that you were there. Videos can show that too, but it's a little bit difficult, more difficult to go back, look at the video, watch, etc. It's something that we've talked about and talked with Dan about. And as of right now, yeah, we're saying there isn't you can't cast a vote for no one.
It's almost like a self-vote would probably be the most effective non-vote, like you say.
And another way of looking at it, right, is that really you should come to consensus on the call. Voting is a way of recording the consensus after the fact. So I guess another way to put that is just because you voted for someone doesn't mean that you are giving them your personal stamp of approval. It just meant that the group came to consensus on that person. I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. And we can change that in the future, right? But yeah, that's how it stands right now.
I just really like that the system kind of weeds out groups that can't reach consensus. I think that's one of my favorite features of, if you get too many polarizing figures in one group, and they can't reach agreement, then they don't get to pass their sort of collective DNA on to the rest of the pool, which is a win to me.
It is. It almost filters out for big ego too, And like you said, if two strong opposing forces can't, if one person can't yield because they see the greater good, to your point,
you can handle one person not yielding and still pass a rep on theoretically, but two people that aren't yielding starts to threaten, right? I mean, depending on the group size. Yeah, so it gets very interesting.
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
Yep. Okay, what does V03 look like? So we haven't started this yet. We're not starting it until we've got elections running, working. So we're looking probably in September, starting on V03.
Exciting.
Yep, I've added inline web RTC officially to this list up here. I didn't have it in here before. The ability to move elections up earlier. So there are certain scenarios in which an election needs to be called earlier than 6 months out. And that will allow for that. The collection of annual dues. We haven't yet hit a year with our first community, so we haven't yet coded up the renewal of dues, but we'll need to do that here before long. Election NFTs, like what do NFTs in Eden look like moving forward? And the real answer is I don't know. NFTs have been in there from the beginning. Will they continue to be in there? And in what capacity? I think they're fun. They are extra. But maybe you get NFTs by voting. Your voting badge. Maybe you get a consensus badge. I don't know. We can gamify this more, but the more gamification, more complexity, the more stuff can go wrong. So that's a conversation that we've yet to really hone in on. And I'd be interested to hear more thoughts in the community about that too. Detailed accounting. Go on. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh no, just I think there's a lot of opportunity for. I think NFTs could play a really good role in the elections. Like we've talked about incentives, and people are having, questions about what are incentives to do this or that. And NFTs kind of present a fun way that you can introduce incentives without, with very low marginal cost to the membership itself. And then, but it can have a big impact on just perceived value. And we can make it fun. I think it's a worthy area to give some thought to.
Yeah,
we should make this stuff look good too. I want to see some snazzy NFTs, not some fell off the back of the Bitwagon NFTs.
Yeah, we have a really nice representation of our NFT in the front end, but that didn't make it into. I think the actual NFT is just some metadata, the video, and the image. So we could do a lot there. There's a whole lot that could be done to, yeah. All right, well, moving on here. Enhanced selections includes detailed accounting of community, representative, and individual member funds. So imagine you go to a members page or a delegates page or the community page, right? The treasury page, and you just see every single credit, debit, everything's out in the open. You can already do that on the blockchain, but it's hard to get on the blocks or EOS Authority and to dig through all that data and to come out with something useful. So we've got amazing annual dues collection, Nova Crypto. What is annual dues collection? So the 10 EOS dues that you paid whenever you were inducted into the community, that's an annual, you have to renew that to maintain your membership annually. Hope that answers the question.
I think so.
Detailed accounting, yeah. So we talked a little bit about that. Go back to previous calls if you need more information around that. I think a few calls back, we even showed off a little bit of XD mockup UI around that. But it's, the thing about blockchain that is so transformative that we talk about the effects of, but we don't really talk about the meat of. And Dan really clarified this for us all, I don't know, a year ago. But it's integrity by design. With blockchain, you can build verifiable systems full of integrity that you can't do with just normal databases hidden on somebody's server out there. And we've known that with money. That's why Bitcoin is so valuable. That's why Ethereum is so valuable, because integrity. You can't just go flip a few bits and print more Bitcoins. This goes for everything we're doing here. And for elections, right? Integrity by design. There's nothing that happens on chain that you can't validate. I think it's pretty cool. When I start to demo, I'll talk a little bit more about that because I'm using a dev version of the contract that gives me powers to go and set table rows. But even if somebody did something like that, you'd immediately be able to see it on chain and know that something's not right. So anyway, integrity by design, and that's what this detailed accounting is about. Enhanced view into past and current election results. We're moving a little bit of that up, but we'll be iterating on that into V03 as well. And the ability to transfer funds internally, and possibly a tariff on funds withdrawn from the community, right? So there's an incentive if you have funds in the community, maybe you're a delegate, you got funds from an election. There's an incentive to try to go to people who can provide what you need to get your work done inside the community before you take it out of the community and spend funds elsewhere. Strengthen the community first.
I like that. That's a good feature to add.
Yeah.
Get that local economy going.
That's right.
Uh-oh.
Before we do the live demo, let's open up for questions. I have a zany face here just because live demos are it's like, when Elon demoed the Cybertruck,
Yeah.
he threw the rock at the glass. Live demos are when stuff like that happens. But before I elaborate more, we'll get into the questions.
Yeah, I think everyone's just in stunned silence right now. We'll see if any questions bubble up in the chat.
Cool.
Well, just a little. So just tell us what it's been like behind the scenes with development. I'm curious. I heard from Mike Manfredi that you two were just blazing through the code as fast as you could. And yeah, how are things going?
All of us. We were on a stand-up the other day, and one of our team members vocalize that it's so good to be on a team where we all complement one another's abilities. So we all like doing a different piece of it, and maybe a piece of it that other people don't like doing. And we're good at doing that piece of it where other people aren't as good at that. So, I mean, I can go through the list and tell you, like Stephen Watanabe, he's doing all of our smart contract stuff, and he's just amazing at it. And then Todd Fleming is he's the trailblazer if the tech ahead. He is developing the next gen substrate of what we're going to be building on. It's just incredible, and then with all the stuff he's doing for the dev experience as well. And then we have Sparky, and Sparky has been, for our elections, has been doing all of the wild Zoom link integration and encryption and decryption of the Zoom links. And he's been setting up a lot of our infrastructure for our enhanced video IPFS uploads, and killing it there, and Thomas Hallgren, our user experience extraordinaire, he blazes a trail before us with all of our designs, so that we work with him and iterate with him, and so there's a constant conversation between him and we front-end devs, iterating to make sure that before we go implementing stuff, we've thought through everything and all of our questions are answered, and it's right there, and we can pull up the designs. And I mean, that's just invaluable. So we're not building in the dark. And Mike and I have been doing a lot on the front end. He's been doing a lot with data manipulation and our data structures. And then I've been building a lot of the front end components. And I'm so fortunate. I'm so I wake up every morning and just think how lucky I am, because it seems like every job I have, I say this, and it's always true, okay, is that I've never worked with I've never been happier. I've never worked with a better team. I've never been we're Zooming, right? And part of the success here is that we're keeping it small. And we've got the right ingredients, and it enables us to go really, really fast. And we're not letting perfection be the enemy of progress. We're not, look, with the UI, with the UX, with what we're delivering, there are a lot of things that I look at and say, oh man, but I wish that we could do that, and I wish that we could get to this, and that we could do it this way. But if we didn't deliver anything because we were worried about doing all of that, then we'd have nothing, right? And so, yeah, you asked that question. I'm welling up because
it's great.
We're having a blast, and that's part of our DNA as the Clarion team. Are we having fun? And the fun that we have is informed by our ethos, by what matters to us under the hood. And we all are, ideologically, ethically, vision, we're all aligned there. And so if we're having fun, it's a pretty good sign that we're building according to those important, considerations.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, as what Emma Goldman said, if it's not my revolution, if I can't dance to it. Yeah, and it sounds like you're not letting perfection be the enemy of done, but on the other hand, it sounds like you've made a lot of important design considerations for how to build something that's a little more compatible, can be iterated on. You're not committing the technology to particular paths that are going to require major excavation later on to refactor everything. And
yeah, right.
When you're considering the technology, you're how committed you are to Zoom or how committed you are to other externalities. You're not.
We're not painting ourselves into corners.
Right.
Yes, we're being very deliberate. Before I go on, I want to mention Dan too, who's part of the team, because guys, it's incredible working with a genius like Dan, and he's the reason that we can all do what we're doing as a team. And so I'd be remiss I almost left him out just because I feel like that's a given, but
yeah,
I would be remiss to not mention and thank Dan and his contributions, and to be so grateful and thankful to him for that. But to talk about, Lovejoy, what you just said, perfection does not equal excellence. Excellence does not equal perfection, right? In fact, I don't know. I'm not going to get too in the weeds. I almost went down a whole rabbit hole.
And this is going to be a philosophical discussion now.
Yeah, people idolize perfection in so many areas of their life, and they miss out on their humanity. Sorry, that's where I was going to go. But they miss out on, like, a life worth living it's messy, right?
Yeah.
But we are making sure that what we deliver is full of excellence. We're not giving up excellence for delivery, but we're not letting perfection block our way. So yeah, and look, when I say that, I'm not saying that we have everything figured out. Please understand me. We'll make mistakes here and there, and we need you guys to be patient with us. This is a work in progress, and we're in this journey together, right? So, but what I mean is that we really do care about what we're doing. And we care that we do it correctly, and we care that we care about the community, right? And about Eden and about this vision. So, yeah, we don't want to get those two things conflated.
Brandon, I'm going to have a power failure if I don't step away really quick and grab something, but here's a question for you. Will the tariff vary of the amount withdrawn outside of Eden, or is it fixed? So we haven't created the tariff yet, so that is subject to debate and change. But what we've been throwing around right now is a flat 5% tariff, which is both fixed and variable. It's fixed in that it's always 5%, but variable in that the more that you withdraw, the more that is taken out. Now, what happens with the tariff? What happens with those funds? They go back into the community treasury. So they're not lost. They're not paid to us. They're not paid to any other, any other entities. That's an important thing to note. But they go back into the treasury, and each month, right, 5% of the treasury is distributed to the existing hierarchy of delegation, according to each, divided equally among the levels, and then subset in each level, divided equally among the members. So the money's going back to the delegation and to the community. But yeah, we're looking at a fixed tariff. Good question. Perfect timing. I made it. Awesome. No power failure. Yeah. It's the details. All right, you ready for this perfect live demo? I mean, yes. Excellent live demo. Hopefully it'll at least be excellent. Yeah, we'll see. All right, so let me. All right, so what I mean here is I have a version of the contract. Elections take a long time. 30, well, actually it sets it up 6 months till the next election. So if I spin up, an environment and wait 6 months, we're never going to get this thing done to do my development. So we have a version of the contract that gives me the ability to directly set table rows. We only deploy this in our dev environments. And that way I can move timelines up in the future.
And that's where it gets dicey too, because sometimes I copy and paste wrong and it just blows it all up and I have to reset it. So hopefully that won't happen during this demo. But hey, transparency, right? We want to be transparent and show you where we're at, even if it's a little less than perfect. All right, so I am in one window here, logged in as test member 4. And in another window, logged in, not logged in, okay, I'm not even signed in. And we have an upcoming election, August 19th. Because we are more than 24 hours outside of the election, we can still opt in. Once you're 24 hours before the election, registration closes, and we have our election group, right? We know who's going to be in the election, at least at that point. So test member 4 is going to participate. So I'm going to say, yes, I want to participate. Well, you're committing to participate in the upcoming election. Not showing up could impact your standing and reputation in the community. If for some reason you cannot participate in the election, please update your election status more than 24 hours prior to the start of the election. Now, everybody's going to be asked to create an election password. This password is stored in your browser, but we do ask you to save it as well. This password is used to decrypt the Zoom meeting links that are generated during election rounds. And again, if you lose the password, this isn't protecting your EOS or anything like that. You'll be able to say, I forgot my password, regenerate it at any moment. But the worst that would happen is that you're not able to get into like a Zoom meeting, and you need to reach out to other members in your group to get the unencrypted link. Okay. We'll be using this for other things in the future, like WebRTC chat, encryption, and more beyond that. So, okay, I'm going to sign the transaction as Eden member 11 to participate with this key. We're submitting. And you are participating. That's great. So now my test member is enrolled in the upcoming election. We're going to have other things on here like an adds to calendar button, so that when the election you see that it's 5 months out or whatever, you'll have it on your calendar, and other things here. All right, so we are opted in, and now we just need to wait until August 19th, 11 a.m. Eastern. So I hope StreamYard, guys, bear with us. It's going to be
a long call.
Yeah, little bit of a long call.
Get comfortable, put your sweatpants on.
Yeah, the good news is after it's recorded, you can just fast forward this, but no, I'm just kidding. Okay. So what I want to do here, I'm going to come in and look at our current state. Okay. You guys won't have to do any of this. This is me just moving the timeline up in our dev environment. Cool. Let's check our members table real quick too. We've got 14 members and they are all participating. That's good. We need like Jeopardy, is it Jeopardy music? Dun, 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 dun. All right.
See, that's the kind of thing you need to let me know before the call, and I'll have it queued up.
All right, so it's 15:10 UTC right now, so we'll say 15:11, 17. All right, oh, look at that. The election starts we're ticking down 15, 14, 13, 12. Oh, nice. Registration is closed, right? Because now we're within 24 hours of the election. So we're waiting for the election to begin.
Liftoff.
The election will begin momentarily. Now, this is going to be an action that anybody can call anybody. And this is an action that does get called during the election here. Elect process. And it's just called at certain points to kick things off. Oh, hold on. I have to seed first, right? We need some entropy from Bitcoin. How can I forget that? So let's grab our entropy from Bitcoin. We'll grab a block within the last 24 hours because the 24 hours before the election starts is the entropy, the time to randomize, right? So we'll grab this serialized header, and anybody can do this too. People can do it multiple times, up to the beginning of the election. We're just feeding randomness into the random number generator, priming the pump. Okay, and now elect process. All right, success. Let's see where we're at. I'm just clicking in here and letting things update, right? All right, round one. Okay, so right now for testing, we have rounds set to 2 hours. We're looking at moving that up to as short as 1 hour. You can see 11:12 to 1:12. Right now, though, we are in the round warm-up phase. So if this were just an hour, the round warm-up phase would be 10 minutes. This is the time where you can come in here and request a meeting link. And I'm actually not going to do that right now, but you can see it's doing all the encryption stuff. And yeah, you can't vote in the warm-up stage, but in the next stage, when it's time for the call, you can. Now, we'll also have this community room up here. So imagine right before the, hour before the election begins and during the whole election, you can join a live, open, global Zoom call. You could invite your friends and family to this Zoom call who aren't even Eden members to be flies on the wall and see how this whole thing works. And maybe you've got somebody like a Lovejoy or a Dominic or Chris emceeing, and it's an orderly environment where people have to raise their hand and get permission to talk. And you can do that in Zoom, right? You can have whole Zoom, what are they called, webinars and things like that. But this is your chance to, hear the results streaming in. It's like being, tuning into a radio station when your football game's going on or whatever. So that's what we envision that meeting being. This meeting, of course, is your round one meeting. And we're going to bump this up. So we're going to add 40 minutes to, actually, we're going to take 40 minutes away from the round one end time now. Fast forward, right? So current, you're in an active state. Okay, so we'll copy that. Again, this is something that isn't a part of our production environment. It's just a dev thing that I can do in dev.
Next time I'll have the bossa nova ready. Promise.
Oh man, yeah. Proof to that bossa nova. I don't know if I did that right, but we'll see. Okay. Oh, did I copy it right? Did I copy it right?
If you're just jumping in, you're tuned in to a live demo of the upcoming EdenOS software to facilitate elections for the EdenOnEOS community. Brandon Fancher is behind the wheel here, showing us the way through this. It's kind of manually moving us through the process.
All right, so we have just fast forwarded 40 minutes into the future. And round one has begun, right? So round one had started, but it was in the warm-up phase where people can get their Zoom links, kind of get everything together and get ready. And now the meeting is going, right? So you'll be able to request your meeting link. We're still finishing up this piece here. That'll give you your Zoom link. It'll decrypt it. And you can see, right, who is in your round one with you. In fact, I'm logged in as test member 4, but let's log in as one of these other members here in this other window. So now here, I'm logged in as test member 2. Okay. And hold on, this is all in dev mode, so sometimes the images don't come in. Okay, maybe we're having an IPFS issue here or something like that. But you can see right now that we have 2 members open in 2 different browser sessions in the same group. Now, as test member 4, I want to vote for test member 9. You can see our consensus is that we're waiting for votes. So I'm going to submit my vote for test member 9. Obviously, we're in a Zoom call right now. We're talking, you know, and people are like, oh, you know, test member 9. Oh, and you saw it just move up over here in prime time, right? Mm-hmm. Votes received. I didn't even tap on this. I didn't touch this. Let me refresh again, see if I can get my images in here. Just because I like to have the images.
Come on, IPFS.
Yeah, images aren't wanting to load for IPFS right now on that one. And so what's the consensus here? So we have 1 vote now, but the leader, the person who voted, isn't voting for themselves, so we don't have any consensus. What if test member 2 over here decides to vote for test member 4? Watch as I vote over here. Watch what happens in the pane to the left. It's all prime, it's all lifetime, live. So you see, like, votes start tallying live in front of your face. You can see how the other members of your group are voting. I should have opened like 3 or 4 of these to show you different scenarios, but you know what? Let's come to consensus. So test member 4 is like, okay, I guess I'll vote for myself. All right, we're waiting for the other window to update. There we go. So you can see that consensus has been reached right now because 2 people are voting, and they're both voting for the same person, so that's 100%. And the person who has the lead is voting for themselves, right? Oh, looks like we might have our IPFS blip comments.
Should it say consensus reached even if the other 2 members aren't voting yet?
There is a consensus reached. If the round were to end right now, it would end with consensus.
I see. Sure.
Yeah.
Because you can't, like, as per your or what you mentioned earlier, you can't penalize the 2 people that showed up if the other 2 people like just ditch.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's why it's not right. What am I? Oh. Hold on, let me refresh this stream. I'm rebooting my dev server. Hold on.
All right. Alexander, I'll get to your question when we're done with the live demo here. I don't want to take
too much longer.
I don't want to take Brandon's brain off of the task at hand. But if anyone else has any other questions you want to preload into the chat about any of this or any other EdenOS related questions, feel free to drop them in there. and we'll get to that after the demo.
Oh, there we go. I was in private with Tour. That's why I wasn't working on that Tour. You sign in as a third member over here. We'll sign in as test member 9. Who's test member 9? It's okay. Oh, it looks like it's using the same session. Let's get Safari. Look, for the sake of time, I'm going to move on. I was going to show you, but the point is here, the more people who vote, the more blocks that appear. And it will show you every scenario. So if you're like, why don't we have consensus? It'll tell you, well, everybody's voting for the winner except for themselves, right? Or, oh, we need one more. It'll show you what the threshold is with a flag when there are like 4 votes and only 2 people have voted for one person. It'll show you you haven't met the threshold here. So that should be an intuitive way for people to see what needs to happen to come to consensus if they haven't memorized, right, the 2/3 + 1 algorithm and the winner must vote for themselves, etc. Our meeting timer is ticking down here, and we do have consensus, and that's good. The other groups, I could log in as other people here and show you the other groups, but you know what? We're just going to say they didn't come to consensus and move on. So let's move this into the future again.
Proving once again that the Clarion team does have access to some sort of time manipulation technology.
Shh. All right, so here we go. Only in dev can we time travel. Only in dev, not in production.
Keep telling that.
All right, so when you're sitting there, it'll see that the time has gone out, and it will automatically move it over to this state, finalizes in. That's all working, but I'm jumping ahead too far to show you that. So I'm refreshing manually in a couple places. And now we're in the round finalization stage. So the 40-minute Zoom meeting is over, and you'll get a period of time, more than likely 10 minutes, to finalize your votes and to start uploading your round video, if it's even there yet. If not, you can upload the video later. All right. So at this point, we're going to jump ahead again to the next round. Just 8, 6. All right, so we've got 1 minute and 37 seconds left in round 1. We will let this timer run out, and we'll see what the next round looks like. Now, there are 14 members in this election. I think the minimum is 12 for us to be able to run an election. What that does is it creates groups. In this case, I think it's 5, 5, 4. Yeah, a group of 5, a group of 5, and a group of 4. And we're in the group of 4 right now. The group of 4 has come to consensus. And the winners in this round become the head chiefs. I'm sorry, the chief delegates. They become the board, if you will. Now, because only one round is coming to consensus, we're only going to see one person in the chief delegates round. But we'll show that to you anyway. So we've got 37 seconds remaining. If you guys are still on, thanks for hanging around. I know this is kind of a slow part, but you know, we're doing this at the end of the call for those who do want to get into this level of granularity and to see what we've been working on. Again, we are moving timelines up manually using a special deployed dev version of the contract on a test net. The actual Eden contract deployed in production does not have the ability for us to set table rows manually like this and manipulate timelines. 2 seconds, 1 second, and finalizing, right? So we're going to do another elect process. Anybody can run this, this action. It just is an action to tell the contract, calculate the results from the last round. So we do that, and you see I didn't touch anything, right? And the UI went to the next round, okay? Now, hold on a sec. There we go. I'll have to look into that. And we have our chief delegates. So the new slate of chief delegates has officially been selected. Now, if we had more people in the selection, we would see round 2 starting now. But we see our chief delegates because we only have 14 people. We don't have that many levels. But the new slate has been selected during this time. They may meet to discuss their vision for the community. They could do that in their own Zoom room. They could do that in the community room that we talked about that's there. I think that'd be really neat, just having them join the community room and do a 40-minute conversation among themselves about their vision, right, for the community. There is no voting during this round because the head chief, or what we've been calling the Satoshi, right, is randomly selected in order to mitigate incumbent advantage. That process of randomization is currently underway. We have this set to 24 hours. It's actually a 2-hour window. But we're going to do the process of randomization. So let's come in here and find a Bitcoin block that happens between the start and the end time of this election, which means that I have to widen this window manually a little bit. So give me one moment.
The selection of Bitcoin and block headers itself would be kind of an automated thing, or how does that work?
Right now it's manual. I mean, we might be able to automate it in the future, but anybody can do this. So we might stand by and grab a Bitcoin block, you know, just as we're shepherding an election through. You could do it. Anybody can go grab this Bitcoin block. The point is that nobody's own Bitcoin block is guaranteed to get in, and I think that we keep, we'd have to talk with Stephen about how that works exactly. But so we are going to say start time 16, 15 is about 16, 17, and it is 11 plus 4. It's 15, 29, so say 15. Okay, so we've got 3 minutes left, and you see the time here is updated. And let's grab a Bitcoin block from the last 24 hours, which is the same one. Anybody can do this seed again, right? Injected entropy. And we can see here, right, that this FFF value, if we refresh, now has a current seed in there. We are in the final state. And once this time runs out, seeding is done, and we can do the sortition. We can finish the election. We know who the winner is going to be. Obviously, there's only one person that became a chief delegate, but it will still randomize here. Let's see, 15, 26. Add a little more. Paste the wrong one in. Sometimes these blocks take a minute to propagate. We're already a minute and a half. We'll just wait.
Minute and a half. Here is a question for you. See if you can answer that in a minute and a half.
How likely is it Eden will one day be utilized across other EOS chains? I think it depends on how successful this grand experiment is. You know, we haven't run our first official on-chain election yet. So I'm very optimistic. I believe in this process, and I've seen it work. And I think it's only going to work better when the stakes are higher. So I think it's likely, but I don't know. How's that for a real answer?
That's pretty real. We can accept your an acceptable level of ambiguity. Confident, but who knows?
I think other EOSI chains should use it. I think the more exciting thing is when it starts leaking out into society. Okay, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so finalizing elections. So someone has to run an elect process here. Let's do that. Anybody can run this, right? To move the election on. Okay, so we finalize the election. Let's wait for our UI and see if our UI automatically, I'm not touching anything, automatically picks up on that. There it is. Okay, so the election is done, and this is kind of a jarring transition. And what we'll do is we'll likely send you to the delegates page instead of back to the register for the next election, right? And hold on, this status should update too. Refresh. Yeah, hold on. Make a note. But if we go to /delegates now, so we can see our delegation, our new delegation from this. Let's do it over here. Okay.
Oh,
so
cool.
They were in the same election, the same round, right? Test 2 is a member, and their head chief is test member 4. I'm sorry, their chief delegate is test member 4. He also happens to be the head chief here, right? And of course, test member 4's view is a little bit different because they were the member and they became a chief delegate and they became the head chief. And so you see your path all the way up to the head chief, to the Satoshi in the election. So look, I mean, enough of this is done that we could run elections on chain using EdenOS now. But we have a few more things that we're smoothing out, and we are finishing up, like we said, things like the decryption of the Zoom links and being able to view your balances as a delegate when you win an election, withdraw from that, from those balances. And a few of the things under the hood that we're smoothing out. I think, I mean, I can confidently say that Def Complete certainly this month with our V02 functionality. I'm hoping that we'll be able to next week start opening up testing to a wider audience than just our internal Eden Dev group. It will still probably be a very curated group. And then we will widen that as we go to test this out with more real world conditions. ETA for first legit Eden election. You know, Dan's been saying fall, autumn, of course, spring, I guess, for the people in the Southern Hemisphere. We've been saying September, so we are still aiming to, I think the season changes September 20th. We're still aiming to have an election before then. But again, right, the future, those are just projections, so take that with a grain of salt. I can say, though, that nothing has changed that would change the timelines we've discussed. We are on track with everything we've been Been working on it here.
Chris says we're all studying this so we can game future elections, obviously.
Yeah.
How gameable is this system?
I mean, look, if you're in dev mode with a contract deployed with set table rows open, you can do whatever you want to an election. But no, I mean, this is part of what I was going to come back to, the integrity by design. You can look at the blockchain and see everything that's been done. In this test net that we're running this on right now, you go back and you can see, oh, well, set table rows was run. Something was manipulated. Oh, why is this version of the contract, this hash running? When the current version of the contract in GitHub has this hash, right? That's when you start asking questions. So integrity by design. And I don't know how you would game it. I guess if there are bugs in our smart contract code, maybe we have to patch those and something got, I don't know, but the hierarchical fractal governance of Eden is designed to be resistant against the gamification that happens rampantly in our elections or our perceived elections in society all the time. Incumbent advantages everywhere. The winners are curated for us and and so this is, again, we're going for excellence, we're going for integrity, not going for perfection, but this is a lot more perfect in my view than the status quo of elections to date. And the status quo of kind of selecting leadership and governance to date. And so, I don't know. The other thing I was going to say is, to the other question that came up, when will this be on other EOS chains, or other EOS.io chains? I do think so. But if we have anything to do with this will be on other chains beyond EOS.io. This will be on non-chains out in the real world. Maybe we could run, I don't say the real world, EOS.io, EOS, it's all the real world. We know this.
Yeah.
So, but what I mean is out in society, right?
Yeah.
This has the potential to transform society. We're doing an incredible, grand experiment with EdenOnEOS right now. And guys, if you aren't an Eden member, get signed up. Go to EdenOS.org, get signed up. You want to be a part of this grand experiment, because I think that we on EOS could be the seed of the transformation of governance in society in different levels, many levels. I want to be a part of that, right? Have my name in the blockchain as one of the participants in the first on-chain elections for Eden. I mean, come on, that's cool. So join, be a part, reach out on the Telegram channels, find out how you can get involved, get an invitation, and get involved.
Cool, absolutely agree.
And if you're still here, thanks for putting up with the long demo we just did.
Yeah.
Will Eden have to wait for inflation funding to do its first election? No, Eden is designed to be self-funding. And there is a treasury right now in Eden. Obviously, the pot is bigger once inflation funding starts happening. And if others out in the community decide to donate to EdenOnEOS as well, the pot gets bigger and the stakes get higher. But everybody is paying, annually 10 EOS to be a part of that. So there is a pot already.
Here's a good one for you. What's the difference between EdenOnEOS and Eden and Clarion OS?
EdenOnEOS versus EdenOnClarionOS. The true answer is we don't really know yet. But to elaborate more on how we have been viewing this lately, because look, let me just put it bluntly, Clarion OS isn't a thing yet. Okay, it's a thing. It's why we've come together as the Clarion team, but we're building Eden right now. And so we are dreaming up of and preparing some groundwork for, and Todd Fleming's work. It's part of this for Clarion OS. But make no mistake, right? We haven't started actually putting pen to paper. No, we put pen to paper, but not code to VS Code to the IDE yet for Clarion OS. That said, we do envision right now Eden communities sprouting up as almost like a subreddit in Clarion OS. And so you could see Eden communities as kind of a subreddit to Reddit when it comes to Clarion OS. That's one way to look at it. I don't know. There's also other ideas of when you're in Clarion, maybe EdenOS or EdenOnEOS members are the blue checks, and maybe you have some more moderation like powers. I don't know at this point. I'd encourage you though. Those are great questions to ask next week. So we have this call every week, but we alternate. So this is the EdenOS dev update every other week, but then every other week is the Clarion, a more wide conversation, which often includes Clarion OS.
Sure. Yeah, it's Mike Manfredi, Practical Governance, what, why, and how, I think is the title. Yeah. So we go into more of the philosophical stuff. But I think perhaps maybe just to build on your answer a little bit. Yeah, like you said, Clarion OS is still kind of a glimmer in the eye. EdenOS is the application that's being developed to run elections on. Currently, its first implementation is essentially EdenOnEOS.
That's right.
So EdenOnEOS is kind of like the test bed, if you will, the test community, the first implementation of EdenOS, which can kind of go anywhere and be used for any community, theoretically.
That's right. And remember, too, we'll likely have multiple Eden communities on EOS, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a more Asian-centric, more South American-centric, maybe, English-speaking. I guess it's more divided on language, Korean, Chinese, Spanish, English is kind of what we're looking at. But so yeah, it's not just one per chain either. There's a cap, right? And this is, if you haven't read Dan Larimer's book, More Equal Animals, read it. But we want to keep communities capped at 10,000 people and encourage the proliferation of Eden communities over time. Competition and governance. Yeah,
and kind of a federation of democracies.
Yeah.
Dunbar's numbering on it. Yeah, I don't think we have a ton more questions in the chat. At least there's a lot of positive comments.
Cool.
It does have the potential to radically change the world we live in.
And Lord knows we need it.
Mm-hmm.
This is what keeps us going, guys. I mean, we love doing this in EOS, but this is what keeps us going.
Lenny had this nice thing to say. A cohesive team is able to do so much more, and sure sounds like you guys got the pieces well together. Nova Crypto saying, I've never been so happy to be in tech elsewhere than on EOS.
That makes me so happy to hear that.
And Chris, speaking to the lack of questions, says the presentation is so good, all of our questions have been answered. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for sticking through it and being here today. And of course,
one more.
Okay. Will there be a place for trying communities bigger than 2,000 people?
Oh, it's
10, okay. So I said 10,000. So the cap is 10,000 people. And I think anybody could spin up this is all open source. If you want to try something bigger, you can modify the 10,000 limit and try it. But just remember that the guidelines that we talk about, 10,000, is there for a reason. And that reason is set forth in Dan's book. And it's a really good, compelling reason to keep communities at a certain size. 10,000 isn't necessarily a magic number, although there is certainly logic in getting to that number.
Sorry, Nova Crypto, you said I missed a question. I just see a lot of positive affirmations. And then a question about the tariff, which we answered. And what is annual dues collection, which we answered. And something about Singapore and Boston. I don't see your question. You might have to repeat your question if you desperately want it to be answered. So while we wait and see if Nova Crypto comes back with this question, I don't know what it is. Then next, so 2 weeks from now, we'll see you again for another update, and everything will be just completely excellent by then, right? Ready to roll?
Nice choice of words. That's our intent. It is our intent. And, I just say a lot of the stopping and going that we saw today was just a matter of the fact that we're speeding things along with manual intervention. But yeah, 2 weeks. See you guys. And a big thanks again to you, Lovejoy, and Chris Barnes as well for hosting these and putting these together. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're enjoying being able to try to connect the team with the community and get these questions answered. I look forward to next week with Mike Manfredi. How many members do we have so far?
Let's see what the latest count is. Yeah, if we go to just it's Eden community stats. Looks like we have 166 active members and 4 pending invitations.
Oh, okay.
So get to inviting. Everybody needs to be inviting.
Yep. Bring your friends.
Yeah. The
ones that you roped into EOS all those years ago. No, now's a good time to be like, hey, let's keep going. This is a hint as to some earlier question I don't know. Scope, upper bound, lower bound. What are you giving us riddles for? I know you must be busy. That's too vague. I don't see.
Oh, is that in? That might be whenever I was pulling our current election state in blocks IO, and there are parameters. There are scope, upper bound, and lower bound, and limit parameters. And those are just different variables that you can enter to query things in the chain state in different ways. So in this case, we didn't really need upper and lower bound. And the scope is just, Yeah, I know, right? Money Man, get with it. You guys are sleeping on it.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a little bit of a grow this thing to 10K already. Money Man, are you a member? I don't know you by that name, Money Man. If you have another name, I know I've seen Money Man around. 10K. Well, we'd like to raise the roof. Yeah, we're still working out some of the details with the onboarding, just in terms of, the idea was to kind of grow based on like friend of friend network, but there are people who don't necessarily know any of the Eden members that still want to get in, and making time to get to know those people and induct them has been a little challenging for some. So we'll get there. If you're interested in joining the community, I'm not even over. That's quite ironic. Well, let's get you in if you're willing to show your face on camera, which has stopped a couple people. Ah, Team Steam. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Lenny says quality over quantity, but tough if one does not know the bundle of EOS aware people.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, check us out on the forums. Introduce yourself if you haven't been introduced. It's not because we don't like you or don't appreciate you or know you from somewhere else. I think everyone's just kind of all over the map right now. So make yourself known. A good place to do that is in the Telegram channel and also on the EOS community forums. And the EOS community forums is a good place to post an intro to who you are and why you want to join. And then from there, it should be relatively simple to get people to endorse you, especially if you reach out to the person that, if you look through the members list and you know or have worked with or have some sort of rapport with any of the members, that's a good place to start pulling that thread and take it from there. But Brandon, I know you got some more magic to make behind the scenes there with the code. It's just Tuesday, so don't take an early weekend yet, and don't let me keep you all day. I'll have you just chatting about completely random things before long. So thanks for your time, and
thank you.
We'll see you, I or Chris or maybe mystery moderator number 3. We'll see you next in 2 weeks from now. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys. Thanks all.
Thanks. Take care.